Chorus Voices, the podcast brought to you by Chorus, a fresh approach to community service. Settle in, listen in, and enjoy the voices who bring you reflections, musings, and stories from our community.
Hi, I'm Dan Minchin, CEO of Chorus, and I'm pleased to welcome listeners to this episode of the Chorus Voices.
And I'm Louise Forster, Head of Brand and People at Chorus.
We do a whole bunch of things at Chorus, and today we're going to have a little bit of a chat around a program which is set up to support people later in life called the Home Care Program. It's a growing part of our organisation and our service mix, and it's also quite a new one. And Lou, a little bit later in the program, we're going to hear from a conversation you had with a couple of people within Chorus who are heavily involved in the home care program.
Yeah, I had a chat to Deb Ryan, one of our key staff in the program, and just particularly around the changes in the last 18 months in the program. It has been around a long time actually, but it's just significantly changed in the last 18 months.
And what's the main aspect of the change to the way the program works?
Pretty much with a number of these programs that support people, they're moving from both a kind of deficit model to an ability model. So rather than trying to fix the things that are wrong with you, work to with your strengths, as well as empowering people by giving them more choice and control in what services and support they receive, how they receive them, and in some cases, including the home care packages, how the budget and the money for those packages are managed and what they're spent on. So it's a real shift in philosophy. And for organisations like us administering those programs, another big shift is that we were previously, up until the beginning of 2017, funded in advance and in a block lump sum amount, whereas in this new world it's individually for each person and often in arrears as well, so we have to kind of seek funding afterwards. So it's just a complete philosophy change for individuals, but also business change for organisations like Chorus.
And really what the government is trying to do here is drive more innovation and competition amongst providers like Chorus, which should ultimately deliver better quality services and better value for money for people and a better sense of control and choice over their life, which is very much in alignment with the Chorus philosophy of enabling people to live the life they choose. As you said earlier, it puts a lot of pressure on providers to change the way they worked, and we'll talk in a little while about what we're doing at Chorus to try and bring about that change and to, like I said earlier, really deliver those opportunities for choice and control to customers. But it's also, through this period of change, made life pretty uncertain for customers. And it's worth acknowledging that many customers and their families are finding it a little difficult to navigate the system as it's changing and as it's changed, which again is something that we at Chorus try to help out with.
And through this change as well, it's become evident that there's a lack of supply of a lot of support for people at home. There's currently over 100,000 people nationally waiting for home care packages, and when I spoke to Deb, a number of people have been waiting months up to years to receive supports. And through other programs that we run, we might extend those to fill a gap, but often it's just a stopgap. So people are often quite tired and exhausted, and in some cases desperate for the support that they need.
My mum has been living with me for quite a few years, and she had a couple of strokes after she moved in with me, and everything was going okay, but then she one night she went to bed, and unfortunately she closed the door, and I could hear this banging, and I thought it was my daughter or it was the dog out the side and I looked and I thought, no. I walked down to the front of the house thinking it was my daughter. No, it wasn't her, and kept walking, and it was coming from my mum's room, and I opened up a door and she was there lying on the floor. She'd had a fall. So she was in Rockingham. They transferred to Fiona Stanley, and she had the operation, and then they transferred her back to Rockingham for recovery. And then she was in there for probably another 3 weeks, and there was talk of sending her home, and I went, I work full time, who's going to care for her?
I felt a bit the same way with my mum.
Yeah.
You know, Mum's 78 now, Dad passed away almost 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And she's been fighting fit all her life. And then maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I just started seeing a few signs that, you know, her memory wasn't good. She was getting lost when she was going to places that she'd been to, you know, millions of times. And then sort of the driving started to become a problem, you know.
Yeah.
And she'd get lost and she'd find herself, you know, just parked on the side of the road and just, you know, not knowing where to go and this and that. So, I mean, that was a really hard thing, getting her licence from her, because I was telling her, I sound a bit like you, I'm the only caregiver. So it was all sort of up to me. And I live probably a good 40 minutes from Mum. She has 2 dogs and 2 cats, so she wants to stay in her home, and which is great, you know. But so I just sort of thought I had to take her to the doctor, her GP, and he was the one that said, "Look, you need to hand your licence in because you know you just can't drive." And that was for months and months afterwards, you know, that's all we heard about. It's just been awful. You probably have the same thing with your parents, you know, but...
Yeah, our situation was very similar in a way to yours, in that my mum had a really serious fall as well, and it was in the night, and, you know, ambulances and everything. But at the time, I was actually in hospital myself, and I'd had a serious operation, which... I wasn't allowed to drive or anything afterwards for 6 weeks. So we were then in the position of what was going to happen with Mum, because I couldn't just hop in the car and drive to the hospital and see her and make sure she was okay. Up until the accident, she was very good in her independence, in that she would go and get the bus and everything like that. So it robbed her of a lot, but... we've tried to get her out there as much as possible, and you know, like I said, and I work as well, I can't be there all the time. My sister lives in Albany, quite some distance away, so she's not always to hand either, and my brother works full time, so, you know, it just is hard that we can't always just immediately be there.
And that's the hardest thing, well, I felt anyway, just getting the information as to what to do. Yeah. You know, I'd go to the GP and try to get something, and then, you know, you'd go somewhere else and you'd get different, you know, different opinions and things of what you're supposed to do. And I just got completely, you know, I was like, I just want some help here, you know. It's very frustrating.
Support Mum's been given has been great, in that it's enabled her to keep her independence, and it's been peace of mind for us, knowing that there is someone there for her that can come in and take care of her, and it's helped her preserve her dignity in a way as well.
I don't know what I'd do without the support that I do get. I think I'd have just sat there looking at 4 walls. And they've made my life a lot more exciting and given me a lot to look forward to. I just open the door with a smile, and they do the same, and they come and do whatever's got to be done, and then they go off, you know, and we'll see you again, June, which is a lovely thing to do. It really is. You know, not shut the door, oh, we've been to her, we keep going, because they're not. They've got a lovely attitude. Anyone who's out there who was in the position I was should really and truly delve into this type of thing, because you don't need to be alone. I can't praise them enough, and anybody who needs this help should really and truly look into it.
I would encourage anybody who has older family to look into it, because it makes life a lot easier for both the family and for your loved one.
Many providers in the market spend a fair bit of time expressing their frustration with these changes and talking to government about what's wrong with the system. And I guess we're realistic about those things, but we try and start with what the customer's needs are, and get less distracted by whether or not they're entitled to X or Y or Z, and focus on what we can do right now to help and what we can do going into the future. And Deb Ryan is an absolute exemplar of that philosophy.
Yep, she's a bit of a legend in the chorus ranks, and also an interesting hire for us. She came from a different sector, but I caught up with her recently, had a bit of a chat about her role and what she does, and the approach to working with people, particularly around their budgets, was a great chat.
Hi, I'm Deb Ryan, and I work for Chorus in home care packages, which helps people live at home independently.
Thanks, Deb, for coming in and having a chat. So you've been with us about 18 months now. I remember Gertie and I interviewing you, and we knew we were onto something special when we had that first chat, and you certainly turned it into something special, which is fantastic. So you spend pretty much your week going out and about and meeting with people in their homes and talking to them once they've either think they need a home care package or know that they do. What's a typical week like for you then, in some of these conversations?
Yeah, you're right, Louise. We're certainly on the road a lot and travel quite a distance actually. So, driving is a big part of our day. But what we mainly do is help people to understand what a home care package is and how it can help their lives in their senior years. It also helps the family, because the family get very confused about the differences between what mum and dad have at the moment at home and then what we're trying to offer, which is under the federal government.
Now, I heard that we've got, across Australia, over 100,000 people on the wait list for a home care package. So does that mean that when you get to speak to people, they're really in need of this extra support?
Sometimes they are. Sometimes they've just been waiting for such a long time that their health has actually improved, which is incredible. But yeah, some people are in desperate need. They've been released from hospital and they are not able to cope by themselves on a day-to-day basis. So we do see that differences between the people that really, really do need it now and the people that have just been waiting, for some of them 3 years.
It's crazy, isn't it? 3 years. So what you say about mum and dad, so you often speak to adult children of older people.
Yes.
What are their biggest questions or queries? What don't they understand, or what do they seek clarification from you?
They really just want to know, I suppose, how we can help mum and dad. Given that a lot of them are still working full time and have very busy lives with their own families, and often they just are stretching themselves to help their parents. So they really, really appreciate that we can help them, but they don't understand how the government is going to help mum and dad, and what difference it is between what mum and dad have now and what changes when they go to a home care package.
So what are some of the responses from some of these adult kids with parents that have our home care packages? What are some of the responses from them, like a few months in after they've been receiving services? Is it a relief for a lot of them?
Yes, and more of an understanding. They get their statements and they can physically see the funding and mum and dad's contribution if they're making one, and how the services that we're providing, and then any leftover funds, and they then understand that surplus can be used to help mum and dad buy equipment and things in their home that they may need, like ramps and rails and walkers and gophers and things like that help their mum and dad to get out and about and live a normal life. So, and then they're really appreciative of the government funding that mum and dad are getting, which is independent obviously of their pension, so really helps them. So when they go and visit mum and dad, they're actually spending valuable time with them socially, rather than doing the housework, mowing the lawn and preparing meals for the week, which isn't really a very nice way to spend time with your parents.
You talked about the statements, and that for me, and my understanding of the sector moving to kind of that consumer directed style of services and where customers and families have access to statements and can see how the budget's going. That was probably the single biggest change in how home care packages were delivered. And I remember being involved in some training around that, and everyone was really scared about having conversations around statements. Yet your career history is in banking, and so that really comes easily to you. Have you found that's the case when you're out and about, that other people in the sector really struggle with that, and that's been a really easy thing for you to work with?
Yeah, absolutely. Budgeting is a big part of banking, and a big part of my background and training, and assisting customers in the banking world to look at their income and outgoings so that they can borrow money and things like that. So moving that into the home aged care was, for me, a little bit confusing at first. I thought, how is banking going to relate to that? But as soon as the first or second time I went out to visit a customer at home, I realised that having that knowledge of budgeting became very simply to me, and I know how to relate that to a customer through all the customer service training that we have in banking as well. So it really did help, and obviously my manager had some really good foresight in employing a banker.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about things being confusing for people and simplifying, and another thing you and I have talked about is how confusing some of the red tape can be around applications, like for assistance with your funding, and Medicare has some 30-odd page document, and you've managed to help people kind of navigate that as well.
Yeah, it's the part of the package is that you're income tested by Department of Human Services, and generally when you get a package, especially if you haven't done an income assessment for a long time with Centrelink, then the government will income test you not very nicely, and will pose an income tested fee on your subsidy that they give you for your home care package. So the prospect of going to Centrelink for 2 hours or so to wait to get them to help you with your income test, I just offer assistance to them and just say, look, I can really help you with that if you're willing to impart some very personal information with me, and I can get the application completed and send it off for you. So that often they just go, yes please, because it means they don't have to go to their home, and then in their comfort of their own home, and I can help them fill in the forms.
I think that to me is indicative of our approach here at Chorus, as well as that wraparound support. It doesn't have to be on a list of what our job role is or our task is. If a customer or someone that we're with needs something, we kind of find a way to do it. Do you think that's kind of how you've approached things?
Yes, and we're not a 9 to 4. I haven't got a 9 to 4 approach either. So the family have to go to work, they say, I can only see you at 8 o'clock, I'll be there at 8 o'clock, or I can't see you till 5 in the afternoon, I'll go there at 5. It's just being really open and flexible with them, and we want to give their loved ones the best care we can, and the only way we can do that is to have a chat and do it in the comfort of their own home.
Now, some of the other things, I don't know all the ins and outs about your day, but I've heard, across the organisation there's been these synergies where, we do something in a part of the organisation, or, geographically, or a different service, and we've been able to cross that over. I think there was a customer who was, involved with us through housing and then packages, and so how do you make those things happen?
Very collaborative in the office, so everyone's talking to everyone about ways we can help our customers. So the customer obviously approaches us for a certain service, but during that interaction with one of our team members, they might identify that, actually we could help this customer some other ways, and they actually open the dialogue with the customer and say, look, I've got this other person that I work with that can help you with packages or with housing, and so we do this referral process across either just word of mouth or email, and follow it up with referrals and get things happening for the customers so that they can be very comfortable in their senior years.
I guess that's really the philosophy of Chorus as well, isn't
Yes.
it? You know, it's about we're all members of our community, and we don't live in these isolated boxes of, you know, you receive X from this funding bucket. You know, we're just interconnected with all the people around us and all the services we interact with throughout the day or a week.
Yeah, and we all find time too. We're not blinkered by our, you know, I must get home at this time because that's my working hours. But we all just very flexible about giving up some time that we can for these people.
Now, you started as, you know, kicking off this area, doing home care packages in a different way, but since you've, you know, been with Chorus, you've taken on another couple of team members, another couple of nurses. What has that been like, that kind of growth and going from solo to a team?
Obviously, it's really grateful because, yeah, it absolutely got really busy after about 6 months. Realised that, yeah, I just didn't have enough hours in the day. And obviously with the level 3s and 4 home care packages, we need to have a clinician on our books so that we can support our customers with clinical needs as part of the home care package. So the clinicians have been amazing, and I've learned a hell of a lot about people's health and medications and things like that, which is quite amusing because, yeah, being a banker, I don't really get involved with nursing ever. And the 2 team members that I brought on board to help me with the packages obviously just means we've grown our number of packages, not only in numbers but also in demographic, from where we're providing just sort of southwest metro. Now we're moving it more east and a little bit north, so obviously just growing our name and our reputation.
It's funny you're talking about your team, because you've got, you know, a whole bunch of people that have worked in the community sector, and then your team's kind of got, you know, the bankers and the clinicians. You're like either end of the spectrum, aren't you? It's quite a funny little team.
Yeah. Yeah, and we all sort of complement each other, and when we go out and do a sign up and a home care package, we work very well together, and it sort of clicks as we're going through the agreement, and then the clinician does her little bit, and so it builds a big picture for the customer, so that we're providing the right care for them on the right day and when they need it. It works really well.
It does. Well, I have absolutely loved working with you. Not that we see each other that much,
No.
but, you know, in the last kind of 18 months or so, I love it when I come down to Rockingham and get to see you, and you know, just love watching the work you're doing and you're growing. So thanks so much,
Thank
Deb.
you.
So we've heard a little bit about the trials and tribulations that go with being part of the home care program, whether as a customer or as a provider like Chorus. But one of the great advantages of the new way that the program works is it's pretty flexible. And while individuals can decide exactly how they want to use them, a creative and courageous provider like Chorus can really join those sorts of services up with other opportunities and find ways for people to connect with their local community, to introduce volunteers, to introduce social activities and connections that people later in life may sometimes find are a bit hard to come by. So, you know, it's got its challenges, but I think we at Chorus have a very strong alignment of philosophy around choice, because after all, our purpose is to enable people to live the life they choose.
Absolutely, and I think that, you know, home care package program and the work that we're doing is a really solid example of how we are helping people live the life they choose and supporting them to make the decisions around that. It's great to be involved with. Another great chat, and nice to hear from some other voices again in this episode. Thanks for the chat, Dan.
Yes, it's been a good one. Thanks, Louise.
See you soon.
Thanks for listening to Chorus Voices, the podcast brought to you by Chorus. If you like our show and wanted to know more, check out our website at chorus.org.au. And please leave a review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and it helps others find us and enjoy the podcast as well. Join us next time for more inspiring stories and news from our community. Chorus, a fresh approach to community service.